Welcome to Electrify, the video show and podcast for electricians only, with your hosts Paul Abernathy and Jay the Basement King Grunberg. Sit back and enjoy the show. What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Electrify and our residential wiring series. My name is Paul Abernathy, one of your hosts for this series. And with me, as always, my co-host, cohort in crime, and the most magnetic man I know from Colorado, except for, the Dragon Man, Mr. Grunberg himself. Welcome, as always, to our live stream.
Awesome, man. I'm excited to be here this Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, we have our coffee, right?
Yep.
Everybody's got the coffee. And I will start out by saying I have the same announcement I have now for most all of my shows, even on Coffee Hour, as you can see here, is if you go to electricianpride.com and you get one of our Coffee Hour mugs, the small or the large, it doesn't matter. You send me a picture of it showing you drinking it or showing something or any of the stuff we have with Coffee Hour on it. I will give you a free month subscription to the members only area over at the actual electricalcodeacademy.net.com.org website. So get your mug, show your support of that show. And of course, I will say, I'm excited to say, Jay, what is the status of Kicking It with the King? I heard you did something this morning. What did you do here?
Yep. So Kicking It with the King is still a work in progress, but I did two episodes this morning. One on hourly rate and how myself as a contractor, I base my hourly rate, how I do it, and how other contractors may do it, and also you as the employee, how maybe you come in with a certain pay scale and whether or not that fits what I'm trying to give you or the the contractor's trying to give you, and how to kind of present yourself to that contractor so that way you do get the pay that you're wanting to get. Because a lot of guys on hourly who or the issue I run into is guys always say that they're overqualified, kind of, you know what I mean? You're hiring someone and they always come up like, hey man, I've been doing this forever, and it's like, all right, well, prove it. And how other way to prove it other than hours or even like a out in the field work. So did that, and I did one on salary rate. I'm going to do another one on piecework, and just continue giving you the view of a contractor and an everyday life contractor, because I'm still in it, as you know, every day.
So that's what you folks have got. Kicking with the King coming up, supported by the Electrician Live Network. So you'll be able to get those podcasts coming up. So again, we'll get those out. We'll get some fancy intros and we'll get that all tidied up. And then the Basement King will get those out to you. Going to be a good podcast for all of you out there. This is his niche, folks. And this is, if you're in business, that's going to be a podcast to listen to. So you make sure we get it going. So, and hopefully, I can't believe you went to McDonald's and you didn't get your wife anything. I mean, really? I mean, come on, Grunberg.
I did. It's on the kitchen counter.
Oh, see, she's still asleep. I get it. It makes sense.
Still in bed. I don't do the serving breakfast in bed thing because I didn't want to wake up the little one. She lays next to her.
You don't do the service and breakfast in bed? Really? Come on now. All right. Hey, Jay, this is kind of I don't know if you say celebratory, but we're at number 9 of our residential wiring series. And the feedback is that they like these commentaries. People like them, and we got other ones to do. So we're ending the rough end one, and we're going to probably go on to other things, other videos, and we'll do our commentary. Okay. But, so.
Hey, I don't know if that Izzy guy is talking about us. We don't know stuff about commercial. Hold on. First of all, I came up as a commercial electrician.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, my background, I did commercial. I did my 4-year apprenticeship in a commercial atmosphere, and I did anything from underground to to tubing, piping,
Yeah,
you name it.
sounds
I
like
did.
sounds like that person has probably been watching some underrated podcast
Yeah,
or something with somebody. I don't know.
yeah.
Fanboy of something. I don't know what that was.
You know what I tell us? I say, go do you, boo. Go do you, boo boo.
No, we'll eagerly await their accomplishments, right?
That's right.
All right, so we're going to get into today. So we're going to be doing other commentaries and different things. Today is going to be, I believe it's part 9. I believe we're getting into in the residential series. We probably will move on. I think what Izzy was saying is, I think what they were sharing is that they'd like us to move into some commercial stuff too. So we will. We'll get into that and that type of thing. And maybe Izzy or whoever it is will learn something, because it seems like they don't know much. But we'll help you. That's what we're here for. We'll help you.
That's right.
That's why we're here. We'll help you. The uneducated, ignorant, as people say, ignorant, we'll help you. Don't worry about it. You'll get some knowledge. Just hang in there. I know you're an apprentice, probably just picked up some tools. You know, it's okay. Even your tools from the Walmart auto shop aisle will be okay. We'll teach you how to use them. Don't worry.
That's right.
All right. So let's go on and get on over to our lesson, and with our electrician as always. And he's ready to get started in his residential. And we ready?
Well, I'm ready.
Headphones. You already got the headphones on? Let's do this. I'll get all worked up here. All right. And let's do this here. Let's get our, whoops, hold on here. Probably the wrong one there. Let me get our electrician started. Okay, first observations, Jay, is he's done pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's done pretty good up to this point. So definitely, you know, he's gotten better. Let's put it that way. Even on this one, I mean, I don't know that this is part of all of his series, but he's definitely, to me, he's gotten better. So.
Yeah, I think can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Am I coming through? Okay. For some reason, I thought you couldn't. No, up to this point, he's kicking some butt, man. He's going through these houses like he's done a million of them before, and that's usually what you expect with a guy with his experience and his knowledge. Being in the position he's in, it looks like he definitely runs crews of guys. Obviously, he's just showing his input because he's probably roughing this house by himself. But you could tell he has the knowledge to do any of these homes. Like you and I talked about before, you know, you do one home, you kind of done them all. You know, there's other little niches in homes that people do and stuff like that. But this guy seems like he keeps it basic, simple, and he's showing us some good stuff. So
yeah, you know what, too, he's residential. And you know what? There's a good chance that Izzy probably wouldn't know what he's pulling in a raceway anyway. So he talks commercial. He probably just is one of those blueprint boys. All he does is do what's on the blueprint and has, you know, like a robot, right? So this guy actually has to think, man, just think if we had a video of Izzy, it would be kind of like, all I do is commercial, and I look off of a blueprint. Hey, if you do commercial, you're an electrician just like this guy, like everybody else. But you got to use your brain. It was clearly that Izzy doesn't have a brain. So this guy does. We do. Our followers do. So let's get into it.
This is going to be the last 14-2, 14-3 circuit that I'm going to show you before we move on to the 12. This one almost always has a three-way in it, so we're going to talk about three-ways a little bit, and I hope I can do it some justice, but I'm going to have to make a separate video on this. I know a lot of people that are watching this video are new to electrical, and I want people to understand that I am not making these videos to appeal to how the inspectors are interpreting code in your area. These videos are strictly to show you how it works. As long as it works and you're not going to hurt the wire and it's going to last a long time, then it is what it is. So I go with the bare minimum, and I've been doing this for over 15 years. Of course, like, I've done things super neat but nowadays, like, I only get paid a certain amount of money to do these houses, so I gotta do them as fast as possible. I gotta cut corners, I gotta do whatever. So as long as it works and the wire's not getting damaged and it all looks good.
That's interesting. So I'll ask your comment. Being an owner, this is a kicking it with the king moment. So what about that statement of cutting corners? There's two ways we could look at that, right? You could be cutting corners, doing things wrong, and trying to get something by somebody, or cutting corners in a sense that maybe I'm going to space out everything to the max if it's a spec home, or then I'm going to space everything out to the 6 and 12s. I'm going to go all the way to 12. I mean, how do you interpret that, Jay? Is a cut corners?
I think cutting corners isn't a good terminology to use. Cutting corners means that you're giving up quality. You're giving up quality just for quantity. You know what I mean? So you're giving up your quality so you can get more of these jobs done quicker, faster. And I get that. Sounds like he's on some type of piecework or per project type of deal, which is good. You can make great money that way. But you can, what we try to do here is cut costs, not cut corners with Wired Up. We can cut costs and kind of like what you said, keep to the bare minimum, like this gentleman said, but never cut corners, guys. And I think maybe he's explaining it in the way that his definition of cutting corners is just getting it done quicker and faster. I don't think he's cutting corners to jeopardize, his license or his contractor's license, his boss's license. So just be careful what you say.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that he's doing it that way. I think when he means cut corners means that he's being very frugal in how he installs. I don't know that he means he's cutting anything. Okay, that type of thing. But if he does something, it'll be picked up hopefully by the inspector. Okay, so yeah, I would take it. He's just poor choice of words, but we get what he's saying. Also, he's not the owner, as he's made apparent in other videos, so he does work for somebody. So I get your sense that it does sound like he's a piecemeal guy, right? He needs to get it quick and get done with it. But he's still got to be compliant. And of course, code is a minimum standard. So again, he's meeting the minimums, which is fine. People go above, but he's meeting the minimum, that type of thing. So that's perfectly acceptable.
I pass inspection. That's the main thing, is I pass inspection. But for the most part, we're not talking about inspections here. We're talking about how it works and getting the job done. I mean, a lot of people got a lot of different ways of doing this, and what we're doing today is we're doing this foyer front porch with the garage light, these coach lights, this laundry room. I got a doorbell here, and these kitchen lights, and this pantry. This right here is, this was a plan change, so this has nothing to do with it. I remember in the last video I put that dining light on with the family room because the switches were over here and it got switched around. They were showing a three-way on this kitchen, but on my options sheets they're not showing this three-way anymore, so they're not going to get one. So the only three-way I have right here is for this foyer and this long hall. So my three-way is going to come from this box, which is going to operate the kitchen, the kitchen lights and the kitchen pendants. I'm going to three-way it to the front door. Now I want to show you this too. It was calling for the switches at the front door, and you can see I got a strap right here from the frame. Like, there's nothing I can do about that. And I always say, like, whenever you put up a box, you got to have two in a corner for a block. And this is really tight, and if it wasn't for this little tiny gap right here, and I know what kind of plate is going to go in here, these D.R. Horton, they get Passage Seymour plates, I know it's going to fit. But if I was to use...
So that's a good example, Jay, is we talk about scabbing out, moving out. You don't want to be stuck in a corner, then a cover can't fit and all that type of thing. Electrician gets to doing enough homes. You get to do them, whether you're doing commercial, you get to know the nuances. You're doing residential, you get to know the nuances. And in this scenario here, he knows his gypsum board thickness. He knows the plates they're going to be using. And so he knows that because of how that is, and he can't really scab it because he doesn't have the room, that he's going to be okay, right? So there's just certain things you do that you're going to be okay, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like with those, I don't know, D.H. Horton, whatever, the contract builder is, they have a package.
Right.
And like he said, the trims are Pass and Seymour. Usually they'll have a fixture package. Sounds like they have a device and a trim plate package. So he knows his packages. Like I said before, he's done a million of these. If you look across the way where he's at, there's 3 or 4 just
Yeah.
right across the road, and he's done them all.
Yeah.
Him or
Yeah.
his guys. So he knows what's going on. But yeah, with those builders, you're gonna get those packages. And the more houses you do, the more you're gonna get familiarized with what comes in those packages.
Yeah. So it's evident that he's probably the guy that they're contracting to do all those in that area. So he's gotten used to it. So
like a bigger plate, whatever. I'd rather have it here than over here on this wall. I'd like to have it directly when you first come in the house. But anyways, I am missing a light box right here. I done measured it out, and I know where it's going to be, so it's not even a big deal. It's going to run the wire out, and I'll put the box up later. And the last thing before I start running some wire is, this is my home run. So this is where I'm going to start. And I'm just going to go ahead and take a look, and I'm going to try to map out how I'm going to do this circuit. So I'm going to jump out of here, hit this receptacle. I got my door chime right here, this receptacle, this switch box for the garage, this right here for the hall, and then I'm also putting on this receptacle in this hall area with this laundry room light. Then I'm going to come out of here and I'm going to hit this box for the kitchen. And then I'm going to come out of here and I'm going to get this pantry. And then I drill through the wall to hit this last receptacle in this hall. And it sounds like a lot, but most of these are LED lights and they don't take a lot of power. And these are really just like receptacles you're not really going to use for anything. Maybe a lamp or a vacuum cleaner, and it's not enough to cause a surge in power or anything. I mean, it's not overloaded at all. There's barely anything on it if you really look at it. Doorbell doesn't take nothing.
So you think about this, people do ask that, and they say, well, there's a lot of stuff that he's putting on. Your hallway is going to get very little usage. And a lot of people, Jay, we've talked about this, a lot of people think that when you're doing this, there's a number of receptacles, things that you can put in a residence. Really not. The luminaires, okay, they have a wattage, so you have to be careful. You got to do a little Watt's law. You can determine that. Most now are LEDs. But when it comes to receptacles, there's nothing in the code that says how many you can put on a circuit. Tells you what circuits and what is limited, like small appliance can only be small appliance and other things. Laundry can only be laundry and not the lighting. And we get that. When it comes to the hallway and to the general lighting and all, code allows us to be able to do that. Put multiples, receptacle loads and lighting loads on the same circuit. 21019 gives us those allowances, permissive applications. So not a big deal here. But everybody seems to think that it's 180 VA per strap when it comes to residential. Of course, it would blow Izzy's mind because, it obviously doesn't have the capacity to think about it. But most electricians would, and they realize that this is 180 VA here is not the same as what you would do in a commercial. Here, there isn't that limitation, right?
Nope, you're not limited to that. Some jurisdictions, you want to make sure that you check with their amendments because there are areas that I work in here in the state of Colorado where they'll only allow 10 receptacles on a 15 amp branch circuit. Maybe I think it's like 12 or 13 on a 20. So they do follow the 180 VA rule. Right. But again, the code doesn't, for residential, the code doesn't say anything that we're limited to that. And one thing I want to note with the houses he's doing too, you don't see any recessed can lights. All his lighting supports are either a 4.0 nail on, which is that round blue box that he's nailing onto the side of the stud or a ceiling joist. And then also he has the ceiling fan boxes. So yeah, it must be in their specs that they don't use any recessed cans, like the actual high hats, as we call them, that recess in the ceiling with the spanners that go across, which is actually pretty nice because sometimes those are a booger to get into certain areas when you're laying out. But every light fixture that he puts in to those boxes, like you said, are going to have a certain amount of wattage, unlike a recessed can, because we talked about this before. When you're doing your load, and maybe you have a high hat, a recess cam, it will say 65 watts max. Well, then you have to take your load at that. Even though you're putting in a 13-watt LED, anybody could take that out and put up to a 65-watt
Yep.
bulb in there. So with his, I think he's doing those like 6-inch disc lights probably, and don't quote me on it, but they probably run what, 13?
Yeah, something like it.
So
yeah, I mean, it's
very
obviously the loads today, and not just residential, being commercial now with the LEDs and everything like that. You know, it went from incandescence to fluorescence to compact fluorescence, all the energy thing, and then it's gone now to the LEDs. So the energy usage has come down, but the cost of energy keeps going up. So it offsets. But, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, some of the recessed cans can be definitely a booger to deal with, especially where it falls in the layout of the room. That could cause you to alter the layout. But yeah, I haven't seen him. I don't remember him doing any of that in the other videos. It does say in this one that he's going to do kitchen lighting. So we'll see, you know, if he adds something other than what he put earlier in this episode. But yeah, just one of those things to take into consideration. That's for sure.
So anyways, I'm just gonna start running the power wires like we always do.
Get at it.
And when the wire gets this low, the wire is really tight on the wheel, and it kind of makes the wire a little choppy. Kind of makes it a little harder to pull.
It's still much neater than most people I see. Start pulling it and it's still all curl, you know. So hey, it still looks okay.
But
there you go. Support better electric. There you go.
You and your team need organized timesheets with.
Got to make him some money.
Yeah. Support Connect team.
That's right. I like to think every video that we critique, and we do it in a positive way, they're still making money. So there you go. Every ad pops up, he makes 0.0003 cent or whatever it is. It's even less than a penny per ad. And you know what? But you know, that's how YouTube makes their money. So, but you know, he probably does get a little bit from that because I believe he has over 10,000 followers. So once you get that 10,000 mark, you can make money on your ads. So that's what the commercials are about. So, all right, he's making some money, a little bit of money, but it's making a little money. So here's a tip to all those guys out there that aren't residential, you know, so because we know Izzy probably has no idea what non-metallic sheath cable is because he's a one-track minded kind of guy, but you want to make sure you're driving that staple only to the point where it touches the sheathing or just shy of it. Don't drive that thing all the way into the wood, man. How many times do we see that? And then you've done some videos I saw on TikTok where you got this nifty little tool to get the staples out. And then I think, you know, Southwire actually makes a hammer that has the back end that's designed to pop out the screw, you know, the staples too. But yeah, you don't need to drive them things home. It's just to hold it in place. You know, it's not to embed it in the wood. I'm surprised at doing inspections. You know, so when somebody like a Izzy or somebody says, you know, maybe you haven't done commercial, probably means they really haven't done a background, because most of us like you done electrical, owned a contracting business, worked as an engineer for the city, worked as a plans examiner, worked as a chief inspector, worked as an electrical inspector, contractor, yada, 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 educator, yourself, contractor, commercial, cut your teeth in commercial, residential, found your niche, okay, what you're good at. And at business, that's your goal, right? Because that's the only way you're going to grow and turn over as a business. And you've identified your niche, okay? But somebody that's not in that realm of understanding or don't have the capability to grasp that, maybe possibly, hey, that's the beautiful thing about the electrical trade, Jay. Is even somebody like Izzy, who probably didn't make it past 6th grade, can still become an electrician and have the potential to make money. It's just a good thing that he's probably only doing commercial. Nothing against commercial folks, because they have to follow a plan. And so probably doesn't have the ability to do anything on his own. So he probably should steer away from residential. We need you commercial electricians too. We need all of you. So that's probably a good fit for him. You know, you agree? It's probably a good fit.
Oh,
Just read a set of drawings and do what somebody tells you to do. The good commercial electricians understand what it means to run those circuits. They understand what it means to pull those branches and those feeders and all that. There's a difference, Izzy. Educate yourself, okay?
Yeah, a lot of times
stop listening to the fake people. Learn something. Just saying.
Yeah, and in the commercial world too, I know that the electrical engineers and the architects and the plan development designers will put together a set of plans with measurements. If you look at our guy here, his layout has no measurements. He's doing it based on code, or you know, he's still, even if the plan shows a receptacle not being on a wall that's 2 feet or larger in an area that requires it, he still has to know that, right? He's still going to have to put that receptacle in. The thing with commercial is they lay everything out for you, which is super nice. I love doing commercial, and the good electricians in commercial will still find the errors on those plans, because there are still errors on them, right? And then they'll go do a RFI, request further information, and they'll get into that part of it. And usually that's probably your supervisor, your foremans. I mean, your leads will probably present that to them. They'll come and look at it, then they'll take it over from there, because you as a lead or a worker, you want to keep installing because you want to get the project done, and that's what those supervisors are there for. Absolutely. So that's what those RFIs are. But no, you're right. This guy here, he's kicking butt, man. He's doing really good.
And Matt stated in the comments about using stackers and things like that. Definitely, I know you use those stackers to stack off your cables and everything like that. Yeah. They can be a game changer. They do secure it, and they are supporting, and they can definitely be a game changer. Wish I had to come up with it. You know, just some molded plastic, you know, the standoffs. I mean, dude, now with these machines that make all those stuff, I should have come up with that. But yeah, so I know you use them. If you do need to keep from bundling, they can be a lifesaver as far as keeping things separated, things like that. So definitely, Matt, awesome. I do agree. Joel, same. CJ straps there, using them. So again, so many options to do it, but let's get back in it. You do have to think a little bit, you know. I challenge electricians to not go blindly into just simply following drawings. Start to learn why you do what you do. Okay. And that's probably the biggest thing I see. Right. So, you know, people say commercial, that who hasn't been tubing? Who hasn't been conduit in their career? Okay. I mean, whatever.
Power's always on the inside on switch boxes.
He's consistent.
And then it doesn't matter on the receptacle. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and put a staple in here. Just to keep my wire in order.
And so those boxes are different heights. We don't know what's on the other side. I think one of them, I think, is the garage. So he probably put those receptacles up high or whatnot, and the switches. So because it doesn't look like there's a drop in the floor or anything. So
no, there is. There's a drop in the floor.
Is there a drop?
That distance? Yeah. So he has them probably at 44, 48. I don't know if he mentioned it before, but if you look, there's a step down when you go out of that door
in now
down into the garage. So that's why they're not level like
different.
that.
Cool.
Yeah, and why he put that strap on the one going vertical and then turning into horizontals, because when you're pulling that cable, if you don't put a strap there to support that cable, when you're pulling on it, it will take all the slack out of it to where you go back, and if you've already cut it and landed in your box and you go back to that, two stud bays over, you're going, oh crap, I just pulled all my extra cable. How do I now get a support in here?
Well,
and you're fighting.
Probably won't be a problem with him because he leaves about 2 feet of slack coming out of every box. So he's got a lot of room for play there. So maybe that's why he does it. There you go. We're 9 episodes in, and now we know why he leaves that slack, so he can have room to tidy it up. There you go.
Tidy it up. That makes sense.
Tidy it up. Makes it all look neat. There you go. I'm just saying.
It's so hot out here that my camera keeps overheating, so I gotta keep taking breaks and putting this shit in the cooler. Anyways.
I will mention we've got 2 CMECPs in the house, right? We got Joe Bellatoni is in the house, and we have Jason, and I never can get the name right. Thrope. Sorry, Jason. I make sure I get it right. I think it's Thrope. I don't know. I just say Jason. But we have 2 CMECPs in the house this morning on a Sunday morning. Is awesome. And then of course we have Jay needing to look away because the H is silent. So is the O's oop or ope or op? Is it Jason Throop or Throp? Hey, how about this? 1 or 2? Jason Throp or Jason Throop? 1 or 2? Throp or Throop? 1 or 2? Which one is it? I gotta get it right.
Yeah.
Troop. Jason Troop.
The H is silent. Troop.
Boom. Thank you. All right.
Just call him JT. Good old JT in the house.
No, I call him CMECP. There you go.
Oh, my bad.
Hey, that's what I call him. So
I don't see Joe's labels.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just saying. I mean,
Joe not sporting the CMECP. Come on, bruh.
Come on, JB.
Come on. All right. So here we go. I should mention we have we have a new CMECP candidate that is going to be, hopefully, if he passes the original investigation, Brittany's got to do that on Monday. We have a new CMECP candidate who's entering the program. Remember, that program is mycmecp.com. Not everybody makes it through. Jason and Joe actually went through the entire program. Okay.
Yep.
So they know what it's all about and they can attest to it. So that type of thing. So, all right. Yes, he likes his scrap wire, Phil. That's for sure. Mohammed, thanks for joining us. Okay, Jay, you're right. What an impeccable memory from, I don't know what episode was episode 2 of this or whatever, when you noticed that he wasn't doing recess cans or anything. So you called it. He's not putting them in here. So,
Nope.
So you know what? I almost guarantee that would be an upgrade, right?
I don't even know if it's an upgrade. I don't know if that builder offers that option. You know what I mean? Because they have different options, like he said about the dining room, the kitchen layout, the bedrooms, stuff I've told you guys about when I did track homes. But I don't think that's an option. I think you're going to get those LED disc lights, because that's probably a surface mounted disc light that's going in there. See them all the time. You get them at Home Depot, whatever. And that's probably where their lighting package is coming from, because that's where their boxes are coming from. That's the blue ones. That's just the option you get. I mean, you might be able to change like your bedroom fixture from like maybe a surface mount dome light, globe light, whatever you guys call them,
Dude,
to maybe like a ceiling fan.
Don't say fixture. You know you'll get trolled on here.
Or luminaire.
Luminaire. Outlet box, lighting outlet that we're going to put a luminaire on. You know, gotta be careful what you say, because you know trolls will jump all over you. Look what's on the screen. Look.
Yeah.
Joe, look what he did.
Joe.
He stepped up his game. But he left off the trademark symbol at the end, because it is a federally protected trademark, folks. But Joe gets to wear it proudly, and so does Jason. Alfio, welcome to the stream over on LinkedIn. Okay, we're streaming in 9 different platforms, by the way, so you can watch it from all Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. And remember, bookmark it, because we have tons of other commentaries, and we're going to get into things like series with grounding and bonding and all these other things. Those type of scenarios. They won't let you do the alt. What is the symbol for the alt? Dude, it's alt keys that you use to put the registered thing on. So I don't remember what it is. Hold on here. What is it? Hold on. There it is. What is that? What is it? Alt 0174. That's what it is. Alt 0174. That is your registered trademark thing. After it, you hold down the Alt key 0174. That's how I add that to everything. Okay. Oh, no special symbols allowed. That's okay. We'll take it. We'll take it what it is. Sorry. So where was I talking about, Jay? All right. Back to the episode. I don't know what I was talking about.
What size do you think that hole is?
Here because there's a
what size do you think that hole is that he's drilling up top? Do you think that's about a 1/2 inch or 5/8 size hole? Because that's a pretty small hole. Looks like he has 2 conductors, 2 14-3s going to it, and he's right right there. What do you think that is? About a 5/8 maybe?
Yeah, or half.
Is that
or
standard?
5/8.
Is that the size that you, when you were doing houses? Is that the size that you and your brother would drill out, or would you drill them larger?
Well, we would do the largest hole that would allow us. Now we had the different augers, but we would do the largest one that would allow us not to obviously violate the 1 1/4 inch. Right. So if we're in the center, so for us it was the ease of, we just had we would buy the little stubby auger bits, and I can't remember the diameter of those things. It might even be as much as 3/4. Might be a 3/4. And for our concept is we're going to be in the middle. We're always focusing on the middle. So, so that's you know what, Jay, that's why we do these things. It's a great point. People say that you're only allowed to put so many through a hole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? So there's certain variables behind that. One, you can put as many as you want through there until it damages the sheathing. That's one chain of thought. The other is, well, when you start putting more than 2 cables in there, then you start having to do a adjustment for the number, as you go through that hole, because you're going to insulate that. That's top plate. So then you get the issues of 334.80 involved in it, and then you have to. So my thing is, even if you did that and you did the math, adjustment and correction, you could get up to 9 current conductors, or should we say one 14.3 and 3 14.2s, or 4 14.2s or 4 12.2s before adjustment and corrections is going to cause you any problem. Okay, because you get to use the 90 for adjustment and correction, even within MB, as long as you ultimately don't exceed the value of the 60 degree, because that's what it limits you in 334.80. But you know what? To be honest with you, you probably are going to you're not going to put more than 4, through the hole. If you are, you're just going to add another hole. I mean, but the key to me is whether it damages the sheathing or not. If you're starting to jam too many through that it's going to damage the sheathing, then that becomes a problem. And the next question people ask is, can you repair sheathing? And the answer to that is absolutely. Sheathing is not insulation. It is sheathing. A lot of people frown on it, but there is repair procedures, and you want to call a manufacturer like us at Encore Wire. If you want to call, everybody knows I'm ahead of codes and standards at Encore Wire. Call me. I'll give you a procedure on how to repair a jacket sheathing. You can't repair insulated conductors. Once the insulation is gone and exposes the conductor material, it has to be replaced or spliced. Okay, and so at the end of the day, the sheathing or the jacketing is totally different, right, than it would be for an insulation, because that's not an insulation. Okay, it doesn't have an insulating value to it. Its temperature rating is equivalent to the insulated conductors, but that's just because of the process. But at the end of the day, you can repair sheathing, you can't repair insulated conductors. So be real careful how you pull them through. But there is a repair procedures that you can follow. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, I think we stick to mainly 1/2 inch, 5/8 holes. We, without the code being in play, which it's always in play, but I've worked for companies and also guys that work for me. They'll only put 2 to 3 cables max through a hole.
Right.
And to me, that's okay. I don't mind that, and they'll say, hey, what's your thoughts? And I'll get into it. Like how you said, we'll take in consideration, adjustments and corrections, and I'll go with it. And then at the end of the day, they still go, yeah, I'm just going to just keep it to 2 or 3, and it's like, all right, well, you do that. That's fine. And
I have heard jurisdictions say that they will only, in fact, the video that I did on an electrical inspection a while back under electrical blunders. Remember that series? There was a video that I did where he was the inspector, who said you can only put 2 through or 3 through. And in that one, I did a detailed explanation of how the adjustment takes place, that type of thing. Gotcha. So go back and people search for that, electrical blunders. It's a pretty good one that talks about it. But again, hey, if 3 wraps of tape works in your jurisdiction and they're okay with it, go for it.
Do it.
Do it if they'll accept that type of thing. Again, we have a unique procedure when it comes to wrapping it. The key thing is just don't damage the sheathing. So don't try to jam too many through. But we know what happens. One of the other reasons that sheathing gets damaged is people don't do their holes very flat, and don't drill their holes flat. They get all wonky. And that again, and you're trying to pull it through or pulling it above the trusses and catching it on a truss plate or something like that. So just be careful. But there is,
or even he's at, what is that, an exhaust fan up there? You could rub it across that metal, because that metal on those HVAC
that looks like a return,
or maybe it's return, something like whatever that is.
Still got metal. Still got metal
HVAC
on it, I'm sure.
Stuff that you're running your cables across, if it gets caught on a sharp edge, because a lot of those guys custom fit their fittings on there, so you just got to be careful on that. But Joel, I have 7 out in the field, and then there's 3 of us in the office. So altogether, including myself, there's 10 of us, and that works. So 7 out in the field, 3 in the office. One more point too, with drilling the biggest holes or smaller holes, is you have to think about what type of drill you're using, the blade you're using on it, because if you do larger holes than you drill in this case, he's probably drilled 200 holes, if not 300 holes in this hole. house, you want to make sure that, knowing that you're using a larger size drill bit, it's going to take up a little bit more of that battery juice. So make sure you got your chargers. Just a little tip for you guys. Make sure you got batteries charging all the time. That's what our newest apprentice on every crew does. His first task is to not only unload the tools from the van, but once you have them unloaded, get those darn batteries on a charger.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And cycle them through, because there's nothing worse than sitting around going, man, I still got this half of this house still out, and I don't got any batteries.
That's when you're old school, and that's when you pull out the extension cord and you use a corded drill, baby. Okay?
Yeah, and we have one of those on each van, and that thing is huge, bro. I mean,
I had the Milwaukee right angle. Again, you're gonna love that Milwaukee right angle. You take the right angle off of it and put the 3-foot extension on it with the offset end, and then we'd use the little 6-inch 3/4 auger bits, and boom, you could do the top. You could boom, 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 boom. So always have one of those
on the ground.
Yep, always have a backup
ladder.
So a frugal electrician, or I should say frugal. That's not the right word. A electrician with good seasoned electrician will always have a backup. So keep those batteries charged. They're not cheap, but keep them charged. But also have a plan in case you need a backup.
That's right, man.
Cord, baby.
That's right.
Unless your job site doesn't have any power, then that's the second thing. Generator. I'm just saying. All right, so. Welcome, Ramon, from Massachusetts. First time. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you subscribe, because we have tons of other videos, other content, and make sure you go listen to Coffee Hour. I did a great one on motors, single motor branch circuits, and what people don't think about when it comes to what if the motor and the conductors are in an ambient temperature other than 30 degrees C, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Most exam preps don't tell you that. Check that out. This episode's available up on our channel. Also, shout out to Adam. Adam did pick up one of our Coffee Hour. He got the travel mug. Again, make sure you send me a picture with you using that mug. I'm just saying.
I'm stapling it up high way back here because there's a whole bunch of stuff right here, and I just want to stay off of it. All right, I'm not anywhere.
Whoops.
Scott.
Scott. Hold on, let's get past that.
So I just gotta take the best guess I can. Trust me, you do not want to be short. This might be a little long. Not too bad.
I always find myself, Jay, I actually pull the cable down to the box and then measure a little bit. I go under the box and then I come out so that I know I got at least, I'm going to have 6 inches at least, and then I cut it. But he just wings it, man. He's just like, oh, that's enough. We've talked about this a lot, but he doesn't really measure at all, really, does he? Maybe he's just done it. So.
Yeah, I guess, I did a thing on TikTok about that. How much conductor do I really need? And anytime you put on social media.
Did you get blown up?
Well, yeah, a little bit, some, and they make good points. Most of the guys out there that are in the field that are working every day, like this gentleman here, they say, I'd rather have it than go looking for it or re-pull it. I'd rather have more than not enough. So I get that too. But the question to me is, how much is enough? You know what I mean? Like, how much? Is it 3 feet? Is it 7 feet? Is it 10 feet? Is it 24 inches? Like,
well,
how much wire is enough wire?
Here's what I tell people. If you're paying for it, then you can afford to do it. So if you're the one that's paying for it, then, hey, you do you, right? But if I'm paying for it, you do me. I'm just saying. That's interesting choice of cable paths there, Jay. I see already a set of holes that run all the way through, but he's using a separate set of holes. Nothing wrong with that. But
there's nothing. He goes vertical with what, 2 cables, but horizontal only 1 cable per hole. Or maybe he has a setup where he puts his powers through one hole and his switch loops through another. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I would have just went in that same hole as the other cable.
It's a lot of extra holes to drill. I mean, hey,
sure.
he does him, but it seems to me that's a lot of extra holes. So. A lot of holes.
Since I'm already here, I'm just gonna go ahead and start with this pantry light. I drilled this one crazy because you can see I got this platform up here, and it's kind of covering it up. There's no way easy across it without going back and then around. So I just drilled through the wall and came up here where the light is.
You do what you got to do.
That's right.
See, that's where somebody like me gets anal, because see, I would have gone to the far side and run it along and then turn it that way. You know what I'm saying? It's just, everybody's different. It doesn't matter, right? But I would have run it all the way over to the other truss or whatever it is. I guess that's truss because the plates on it. And I would run it down with it. Then I would have run it down the actual span of the
right.
Hanger,
so
hanger.
You would have.
Yeah, because he's going to end up
horizontal one more bay over and ran it.
Yeah, so because he's going to have to, in order to be compliant now, because he's going to have to tape that or whatever that cable to that hole, that bracket, you know, and fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I don't know if tape's necessarily listed as a securing method. Be fine, but I would have run it over down, and nobody's going to get a hard on for the fact that he is to tape it to the actual hanger. But I'm just saying, my mentality is I would immediately just gone straight over, or that's just how I would have done it. I mean, that's just not that it matters, because it doesn't, but that's just I'm thinking of back when I was doing houses, and I know somebody out there is going to say, what was that, 1970s? But yeah, I'm not that old, bro. So, but. Did that come to your mind? Is that just me?
No, that came exactly to my mind. I would have ran it closer to the actual box itself, and ran it along that where his back is, and then 90 down.
There you go.
One bay over, pretty much to the left. I would have drilled my hole up one bay over to the left and ran it that way. And I also would have just, in this instance, I probably would have gave myself an extra 3 inches at that actual box. So it looks like, some boxes he gives a little more and some he gives a little less. But again, like you said, it's neither here or there as long as he's meeting code and passing. So you're saying that from where it enters that box to...
Joel says zip ties. Okay, that is dating my age back when we would tape. But yeah, it's zip tie. You could zip tie. What was your question? I'm sorry.
Are you saying that from where it enters into that box to where his first staple is, that's more than 12 inches? That why you're saying you tape it to that bracket?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm just thinking the span of that span that he's got there between it and where it's connected to stud. That's you're required to NMB. You're required to secure it within 12 inches. So it looks like that might be more than 12 inches. I'm sure he's going to strap it to the hanger. But I'm just saying, it's just things, perspective. That's why you say when you call out things, it's just things to help people, because that span is probably more than 12 inches. Maybe it isn't, that type of thing. But you have to remember the rule now in 2020 is it's the length of the cable. Okay, it's not as the crow flies. It's the length of the cable when it comes to where you put the securement 12 inches. So kind of clarified where it has to be. So I was just an observation on it.
And I'm gonna go into the bottom of this box, but I'm gonna stay in the second slot. Remember, the inside slots for the switches are the power, so as long as I'm on the outside, I can go in this bottom right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and put a staple down there to hold it. Next.
I know it's funny, but he did leave this much in the lighting outlet, but he left this much at the switch. I mean, I get it. That's a lot, but hey, I ain't hating.
Yeah, and what he's talking about as far as going into those knockouts, you can put any cable in those knockouts. You don't have to do it the way he's saying. He just keeps it consistent with power on the inside and the switch legs on the outside. And that's not a code requirement, guys, just so you know. You can put them in any order you want. It's just this guy's done it so long that's his way of doing it. And he's going to go back and make up that switch.
And when he trims it out, he's going to know when the gypsum's already up and everything, and he's looking at it. If he stays consistent with that, then he knows that any box he goes up to, that the ones that are coming in to the right are power, and things like. So again, it's just the way he's put together his system of how he enters. And I will say through 9, obviously this is probably the same job, so it is easy to be consistent on the same job. It's when you go from job to job that you might not be as consistent, but he's been consistent in that concept. So it's obviously how he was either trained or how he does it. So it's been very consistent with that.
Is I'm going to run the kitchen lights and the pendant lights from here.
It could be true, Joel. Could be true.
Yep.
Okay, so another observation. I don't know why he went out and around the duct to come back. If he came from that side, he could have stayed on this side of the duct and kept it close to that joist up there and then run it down and through that hole. He went down and around the duct that way. There's a gap in the duct right here, right? I would have come here and ran it down this side and come down rather than take it out here and run it around. You just get it more exposure to, anything that's up there. I would have kept it tight here and run it. There's something that affords that protection, obviously, by running it along the joist, okay, parallel with it. So, hey, it doesn't matter, but we can always play Monday morning quarterback, and that's all we're doing here is Monday morning quarterback and critiquing it. And it just would have, or maybe there's something up there that he couldn't, and we don't know. So that could be a reason.
Yeah, I think that's also a way that you can cut cost without cutting corners, right? Because from a contractor standpoint, we're giving him crap about anything over 2 feet at his boxes, but in reality, that's really all you need. You go 3 feet, 4 feet, that's 2 extra feet per box times 100 boxes. That's 200 feet. You're almost to a roll of wire, and so that's $120. So
that's a good point. He said at the beginning that he, cut corners, but if you were to sit down and have a talk with him as an employee and you were to see the video, you'd say, okay, poor choice of words. However, I can show you, and every little bit adds up. If you're doing, so certain number of homes a year, that adds up, right?
Yeah.
And if you're
one of them, yeah.
If you're in business for yourself, I mean, you're looking at ways to not throw money away. So, being very proactive with your routing and understanding that, it's just, once you become seasoned, you just get used to it and you don't have to think about it. But
let's do this. Let's keep it simple. How much is a roll of 14.2? Let's just keep it simple. Let's just say 120.
For me?
Not for you. No, for us contractors getting it from Home Depot. Let's just say 120. So let's say he saves 1 roll per house and he has 100 houses. So $120 times 100, that's $12,000 on cable just on saving 1 roll per house for 100 houses. And who knows, his development might have 300 houses. Who knows? You know what I mean? But again, that's 12 grand. That's a bonus. If you're saving the company 12 grand, I'm probably going to give you a quarter, if not more, a third of that money, because you're saving it for us. So again, it just comes back to the conversations you're having with these guys. There's a way to present an opportunity for improvement with also an incentive behind it. And you've kind of taught me that, if you want to get to somebody, hit them in the pockets.
Absolutely.
Well, that also goes in a positive way. If you want to get a point across to somebody, say, hey, if we save this without cutting corners, we can cut costs. I'm going to give you this amount of money. And if you do it and it gets across to them, they'll save you that roll wire. So
absolutely,
just ways to look at it.
You learn well, Grasshopper. All right.
I want money, baby.
Okay. Let's make an observation here real quick. Remember when he said that he's running them near the top in order to keep it away from potential damage near the metal duct and all this kind of other stuff? Well, he has now created a situation where he's going to have to put a running board or something up there because now he is running parallel with that framing member and he's less than 1.25 inches. So is this a classic case of where you try to eliminate an issue, but then you potentially created an issue? So, so I get it. In my mind, it could have been routed back on this side of the ducting and run down and keep it 1.25 inches from the edge. And you don't worry about a running board. You don't worry about anything like that. So again, I get it. You get rolling into these things, but you have to remember there are codes there. And for everybody that says, electrician says code doesn't matter, that's because you're not at that point in your career where you understand. Anybody can learn the trade. I can teach a monkey to pull cable, but I can't teach a monkey to understand why they pull cable. That's where it takes some intelligence. So at the end, and monkeys are very intelligent, but the point is comprehension of why we do things. And so this guy is extremely talented. He does a very good job, very neat, very aware of what he's doing. But we use these, and this is why we do these, to bring up little things like this and remind him that, okay, well, now you've created another issue. And I'm sure he's going to address this issue. Somebody will address it, or hopefully an inspector will address it. But this just goes to examples. Sometimes when we do, it's kind of like grounding and bonding, right? We do something in grounding and bonding, and then somebody takes it over the limit and think more is better. And then not always when it comes to grounding and bonding is more is better. Bonding it properly is good, but going overboard, you could create another hazard, maybe objectionable currents or something because you're doing too much. So sometimes we get so tunnel vision and we're trying to protect our products from somebody else, but then we have other things that now we're subjecting it to. So that's just, that's why we do these. That's why I do these things. Okay. So, what did Adam say? May already has been talked to and got hit in the pocket as a pay per hour. So that's why he's leaving long tails. That is his bonus. He's creating his own bonus in scrap. Well, at the cost of copper today, he's probably okay. That type of thing. I doubt that's what he's doing, but hey, don't think like that, Adam. That's employee. I want you to think frugal for the employer. All right, so here we go.
In this direction, I'm walking into the kitchen, and you want your immediate light to be your first switch, just like we talked about in those bathrooms. So in this case, it's going to be the kitchen lights. Those are my main immediate light when I'm coming in this direction. So that's going to be my first switch. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in this slot 2 right here. And that'll tell me, without having to mark it, but I am going to mark it, just because.
We could keep joking about this, Jay. We are joking. We are, you do you. That is a lot of cable. But I make cable, so you know what? Keep pulling those 2-foot, 3-foot leads. I mean, that's how I get my bonus. So the more cable you use, the more money I make. So you have at it. But now let's shift from me. Let's shift again to the Grunberg perspective. I know you joked about it on TikTok, on Instagram and all this, but and all joking aside, because everybody would be teasing us saying we're being a hater, and we're not, but that would be unacceptable to the if you walked through a project and saw that much on a wired up electrical design. You would spawn a conversation, right, with your electrician if you saw that much hanging out of every box. I'm just asking for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think just depending on the situation, I would probably just make us, a little smart comment like, man, how much extra cable are we pulling here? Are we, I probably wouldn't address it into more than just a smart remark to kind of get, jokingness, serious point across to him, but I would notate it. And in my crew lead meetings, I would then bring it up and we would have a talk with everybody, because I would make it a whole company wide thing opposed to just singling out an individual.
Perfect.
So
that's actually what I was trying to get at, and you answered that beautifully. That's why you folks need to listen when he finally comes out with Kicking It with the King, because that's exactly what you do. And we've talked about this in the past.
Yep.
You don't want to alienate somebody. You want to do it we talked about this. I've said things to you like memos, and you make sure it goes out to everybody so that everybody knows the intent. Because there's nothing worse than isolating somebody out, and it's no need for it.
No.
So, because at
the end of the day, the job's still getting done. You know what I mean? Whether the cable's longer or whatnot, longer than you want, the job's still getting done. That individual is control of that job. He's working his tail off for you to get it done. I mean, there's no reason to cause conflict on the job when it's hard enough to get in there and like this guy's doing, running circuits and getting them where they need to go, and doing your whole path and wiring it correctly. That's a stress level itself to make sure that you're wiring up to code per plan, inspections, blah blah blah, let alone a boss coming in and just hounding you about that. So
right.
Leave that for a Zoom meeting with the higher ups, and again, get everybody involved so you're not singling somebody out. But as far as what he's doing, hey, maybe he's doing it for pigtails. Who knows? He's still getting it done. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to get it done.
Absolutely. Adam asked, do we always orient going in the bottom or the top, making trim out? I don't really. It didn't matter when I was doing it as long as I got them in the box. I put little markings. I had my own identification system that I used with my clients and things like that. Okay. So that's how I knew whether I put loops on it or whether so everybody's different. But I can see, whereas you come up with a system like him, he kind of knows what he's doing. I do like the fact that he keeps his power always to the inside, just because you immediately know where the power. Now with mine, I would know anyway, because on the end of mine, and I certainly didn't have that much cable, but on the end of mine, I would put multiples of my Klein. I would, put like 6 or 7 lines where I get along the end of the cable. That way you could see the indentions inside of the actual insulated conductors when you strip it. And that's how I would know that those were hot. Right? And anything that wasn't like that was a switch to something. Or if it was travelers, then I would know. Well, obviously it was a three wire, mostly for the travelers. So there was different markings that we would put on it. Didn't necessarily follow this scheme, right? But again, it's just his way. And again, we've watched it now for 9 episodes, and he's consistent, right? And he's going to have an easy time trimming this one out because he is very consistent. So you do you and develop your method. So when you hear us critiquing about the amount of cable and all that, yeah, it's just semantics in it. But again, bottom line costs, let's save the guy some money, and he could probably be a little more frugal with the use of his cable, but that's his choice. He's doing him. And that's okay. And somebody says it might be before the pandemic. Yeah, probably. Maybe it was when everything was reasonable and it wasn't a big deal. So maybe you're right. Maybe it was before then. Now that cost of cable went up dramatically. Didn't go up for me though, by the way, Jay, I'll mention again, but it went up for everybody else. So, of course, everybody will say, well, Paul, you're not buying any. No, you're true. I'm not. But if I was, guess what it would cost me? Just guessing. Don't ask for any cable, Jay. Sorry.
Things get a little confusing once you get into three-ways and everything. So, I'm not doing a three-way yet, but that's for the kitchen lights. And then my second switch is going to be my next immediate light, which will be my pendants. And the third switch for this is going to be for the foyer. So I want that to be the first switch going in that direction. So like this last switch in this box from the stud is going to be for the foyer. It's going to be my foyer three-way. So I'm going to do my kitchen, pendants, foyer. I'm going to finish these lights real quick and we'll get to the...
Let me ask you about that, Jay. Do you think that's the right configuration if you were doing that, to put the foyer all the way to the right? I know you put the first switch of light, but I would think you'd put the foyer one as the first one you come to into the room so that you can cut the foyer off. And then you would put the second switch would be for the closest luminaire. And then the third one would be for the pendant. That's how I would probably lay it out, rather than put the foyer all the way on the end. Although some people would say, well, if you're entering the foyer this way, then that's the first switch you'll come to. Now, I still think, for me, I keep it the closest switch to the foyer. Again, semantics, it can go either way. It doesn't really matter, right? But
yeah, you could put in the center one. You could put that foyer one on the outside, the inside. It really doesn't matter. But in this situation, you're right. I'd put the foyer one closest to the stud. And then my middle one would be the kitchen lights, and the one opposite of the stud, the furthest one out, would be my pendants. But when I'm walking with customers, and when we do these basement walks, I have probably maybe a 750 square foot basement. You'd say, oh yeah, you could walk that in 20 minutes, and an hour and a half later, I'm just finishing up my walk, because I give them every option possible. I say, hey, would you like it like this? This is, and someone will say, how would you do it? I say, I'd do it like this. They say, okay, let's do it like that. And then other ones are like, no, I want it to be this, 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 and this. And it's like, as long as it meets code and
whatever
there's no
you
issues
want
with it, you can have it that way. Exactly. And I'll even mark out studs. I'll go 6 foot from an opening and put my foot right at the last stud and say, listen, we need a receptacle outlet within this footprint right here. Where would you like it?
That's beautiful.
Well,
That's the customization. That's the customization that you've kind of built your business around, a niche, right? And that's your niche, right? So I mean, and you're giving that company, they're paying their hard-earned money to get what they want. And so the difference is with track homes like this type of thing, it's to spec, although I am sure the owner has, some input, unless it hasn't been sold yet, but because they pick the packages and change things. But in the basements, these high-end basements, you're giving them the option, that type of thing. And I mean, they're paying for it. It's theirs. All you're doing is facilitating that. It's that type of thing that sets a company above everybody else. And in doing it with a smile and letting them feel as if it's there, because that's the thing, right? You get your customers and clients invested in it. They're paying for it. They're invested in it. And it's going to be a better relationship with you along the way, that they feel like they can come to you and it doesn't become adversary. Yeah. It's a great approach. And again, I'm a big fan of your approach and how you do all that anyway. So, so definitely.
It also allows, the customer to see things through a different set of eyes too. And that's my professionalism, or like my project manager, Chris, he's done so many that we give him suggestions, hey, maybe you want a USB charger on each side of the bed just for your kids to charge their phones at night or their iPads. Oh, you know what? I didn't think about that. Well, just so you know, it will be an extra cost, but we'll put it in a change order. If you like it, you accept it. If you decline it, you don't. No sweat off my back. I just want to get you the product at the end of the day that you're happy with, because you only want to do this basement once. You know what I mean? I want to give you everything that you can think of on the basement. Whether or not you accept everything, that's okay, but let's get the option out there, and then you can pick and choose what you want. So you're right. It's a little different than these track homes. Maybe on his plans, he has that drawing and it shows from that outside switch that he's talking about, and it has a little line going to the light in the foyer. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's just like you said, that's how they have these built, and it's like that in every home. Right. Well, he's obviously going to stick to that, so. Yep.
Well, it brings up a great point, and I've done this in a previous podcast that you can go look at over on the channel. It talks about, people say you only get one opportunity to make a first impression. I really, for example, when you go to your walks, that you are making that impression. Although I am a believer that you can always repair a mediocre first impression. Just don't, I tell people, don't give up, right? So I wouldn't have my guys go to a call that would be ripped up jeans, holy, and you wouldn't send anybody on a job walk to do that. You want them to be very professional. But if something happens and you're a guy and you happily slip up or something and you start cursing or say something bad or say something, you do have a chance to repair that at first impression. Again, many people think the old mantra is you only get one chance to make a first impression. That's true, but you have a second and third impression that you can give. In other words, the moment that you identify that it didn't work well, like if you ever go and do one of those where you feel like something didn't jive, you know, it's like you have a standoff owner and you come in and do a first walk or something, and all of a sudden it kind of, you're like, well, this person's, you know, saying some things, and then all of a sudden you get a little standoffish. A good owner, a good electrician will be able to pivot from that. They'll be able to go, okay, I get it. They're putting out their money. I know I got to do a job. So maybe we didn't hit it off right, but while I'm there, I have an opportunity to identify how to fix that impression, right? So maybe they make a comment about something that you can latch onto. So I tell people all the time, you always got to be a salesman as well, especially for your job walks. If somebody says something, we didn't hit it off well, but halfway through it, they make a comment about something that I can relate to, then I'm going to change it and say, you know what, that's funny, because what I'm doing is trying to build rapport in order to repair that impression. And then finally, when I leave, it's like I used to always say this at my seminars, right? Because there are occasions where I can say things that might be abrasive to some people. They might not like it. Again, I just give you the facts. But again, at the end, I always go, look, call me. If you need me, I'm here. If there's a question, anything you need, I'm always here. I always end on that. And knowing, and here's a little tip, knowing when you do that, again, I'm exposing all of the little tips that I usually share when I'm giving consultation to owners and things like that, is one little tip is when you do that, you know that only about 10% will ever take you up on that. Sure. But the impression you give is that you are always there for them. So, and you are, you know, like I told you the other night, I was at the vet with my cat and somebody called me after 9 or whatever for an electrical question. And I answered my phone while my cat was in the vet. You always be there for them. And if you say you will, you need to always be there for them. That's why I answer my phone. That's why I answer emails. That's why we have the forums. That's why we're there. And you do the same thing. So there's a first impression you need to make on every job. Don't open your truck and have trash fall out of it on the job. But if that happens, don't give up on the opportunity to repair that first impression before you leave. It can be the difference in whether or not you make that sale, you have a good relationship with the potential client, or whether or not they refer you to somebody else, right?
Yes. Always
be collectively working on that. So that's why I tell people, and we have a course on that called Soft Skills. If you need working on that, go to our website. We have a program that's designed to work on those soft skills. Every salesperson, every lead, people like that to interact with public should probably take that, because we all can. People say, Paul, did you take that? You know, it's like, yes, I did. But, you know, I am totally different when I'm doing something like a job, or I'm in a seminar, or have to wear the suit and tie or act different. You got to be able to be a chameleon and change those things. But just remember, you can repair a lackluster first impression, but you should always go into it trying to set the best impression you can up front. That type of thing, right?
Yep.
All right. Let's get back to our dude. Okay, we got to get past the ad again. Got to make them a little money. And also for those that out there that ask, obviously running across the top of those joists like that or those trusses, still have to meet the securing and supporting requirements of 334.30. Okay, every 4.5 feet, you're going to have to secure it. In those cases, for those lighting outlets, you're going to have to secure it within 12 inches of entry because they do have an internal holding clamp, right? So again, within 12 inches, and I'm sure he'll do that above running across. I'm sure that he'll do that. Look, we got a viewer from Kenya. Welcome, Dominic.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us from Kenya. I don't know, what time is it in Kenya right now? All right, so just make sure you know those securing and supporting requirements. Again, somebody mentioned something earlier, Jay, that what people take for granted in a residential is there's a lot of codes that you have to be aware of, right?
Sure.
I mean, if we're in commercial and we follow the drawings and we do everything and we know our strapping and all this kind of stuff and it's pretty much laid out for us. We still there's a difference between somebody that's really proficient in how to lay things out, and that's where you can shine. But if you ever take a commercial guy or gal and move them over into residential, sometimes they can feel lost. And I guess the residential person would too in commercial because they don't know how to bend tubing or conduit. So they might not know those things and got to worry about raceway fills and all those kind of stuff. It's two different worlds. It doesn't make you any less of an electrician because you do residential. Have you ever felt any less of an electrician, Jay, because you do residential versus now not doing active big commercial jobs? I mean, electricity is electricity.
No, I felt when I was in commercial though, there was a lot more politics in it, and there's a lot because again the projects are larger, so you have the high rises that I was on, we had at times 100 to 200 electricians, and you're not going to get along with each other, and your foreman isn't going to get along with the other guy's foreman, so just because they don't get along, you can't like each other. You know what I mean? There was a lot of that BS back and forth crap that I just wasn't very fond of. In residential though, when I did come over to residential, there was a couple things that I brought from my commercial background, and that was running everything in 12 gauge or larger, or 20 amp until I learned, obviously we do the general purpose mostly on 15 amps. I always pigtailed on my in and outs, meaning when I came to a receptacle outlet, I brought one cable in, one cable out. I would take the two whites and blacks and pigtail them. That's a commercial thing. And as you start learning the residential tricks and tricks of the trade, you start kind of winding back and go, man, a lot of that stuff was just either what I was taught or I had maybe a little bit more pride on it. And so am I any different of an electrician? No, I'm not any different than I was when I was in commercial than what I was in residential. I just learned that in residential, there's a lot more that you have to be aware of. And a lot of guys don't even know why they're doing it. They don't know why they're putting in a dual function breaker. They don't know the reason why they're running two small appliance circuits to the kitchen. They know why, but they don't know in the code why. And that's what we're here to do, is trying to teach you guys why you have to do that. And hopefully you'll learn something.
A well-rounded electrician doesn't fool themselves, right? You learn the physical, but that's why we take so much pride in this. And that's what I think is lacking today, is that a lot of electricians today are just machines, and they have to realize, and we have a lot of, and so I like to thank all the people that push forward and continue their education, whether it's with me or whoever, that's irrelevant. The fact is, always striving to learn more keeps it fresh and realizing there's so much more to learn. And we can all disagree on certain things, but the reality is in this trade, the beautiful thing is there is progression. You can learn to cut in a box, you can learn to do different things, but then over time you start to now shift into the mental part of it. Why is the code? I mean, the code is what it is, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that, somebody says, well, you know code, but you don't know how to do. Anybody that knows and can fluently quote this has done it. It becomes very transparent when you start talking about different things that you had to have done it in your career. Okay. So again, this is a progression to learn this document, right? I learn something new every day. And that's why I still love this trade. And that's why I share, because, reduce the learning curve for others. That's the whole point. Okay. So
our trade is always changing too. It's always
Mhm.
evolving. Every 3 years we come out with a new code cycle.
Yep.
So whether or not you're always learning like us, there's always going to be something to learn as well. So once you think maybe you got it down, guess what? Another 3 years from now, you're going to have to kind of freshen up on the changes, or maybe a new technology came out for receptacles or devices or equipment. You're always keeping up. So
Yep.
you'll never know everything because it always changes. So that's a
Yep.
great thing about electrical that I enjoy, is that it's always keeping my mind going.
Absolutely. Tight little bend on that NM there at that box. So yeah. Good enough though. He's fine. I again don't understand that. I don't understand that routing sequence there, but there must be something up there he's steering away from other than it.
All right, this is the pendants. Okay, we still have a three-way and a switch leg to pull for this foyer, but I'm gonna save that for last. So I'm just gonna go ahead, we just got done with the kitchen independence. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here in this laundry room, run this switch leg real quick.
Kudos again to his girlfriend or wife for her camera work. She does a good job. I will notice that he must have got lazy on his editing, because remember that one episode where he actually had the blueprints would pop up on the screen and he was showing, and that's all done in post edit. And a lot of people, like I know you, I kind of got you onto this program called Power Director, and it's a neat it's an awesome editing software. But at the end of the day, he must have decided to one episode break open the editing software and add that pop up of the blueprint. Other than that, he hasn't done it since. He hasn't done it yet in this one.
Yeah, if you guys follow me on social media, my TikToks, I usually put those through that Power Director, and I do my transition, so it kind of has that like blurred transition. That's not a feature that's inside of those Instagrams or TikTok. That's actually from the Power Director software that I have on my phone. So I paid an extra little bit to have that on my phone, but man, it is money when you're doing your editing.
Yep, and we both have the one that's on the desktop as well. So I use that when I'm editing longer videos and things like that. But I used to use Premiere Pro, but it's just a computer resource hog, and that's when I found Premiere Power Director, and it's just amazing with the features that it has, and for the cost, it's annual fee to always get the latest edition.
Yeah.
It's just a no brainer. If they do one video a year, it's still worth it for me. So because
It's an
usually
investment, though. I mean,
Yeah.
you do have to pay for it. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
free. And I mean, they might have a free level or a trial, but eventually, if you want to continue with it, you have to pay a annual subscription. So
Yep.
just be prepared for that.
Yep. Somebody must have said something to him. And, you know, remember the early in the videos, he was doing everything from a 2-foot ladder standing near the top, and we had everybody screaming about the OSHA, right?
Yeah.
And then and now he's using a 6-foot ladder. So maybe he watched somebody, he was reading his comments on his videos, and maybe somebody says, dude, like OSHA's even going to come out there to that residential anyway, but they're not, by the way. But he must have seen that.
I'm trying to read O's question.
Oh,
If
says
Brandon yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he says if Brandon decided to drill holes on the joist to run the cable, and the last cable from the last hole to the light box is 7 inches, does it need a staple, or the hole counts as a staple? So when you run it, holes count for securing and supporting when they run horizontal. They don't when they run parallel. Okay, so if he's running parallel, then you still have to secure it and support it. Running horizontally, it's considered secured and supported until you turn and run down the actual framing member. And then when you start running parallel with it, then the rule comes in. So horizontally, holes, board holes, considered secured and supported. But the moment that you turn parallel and you're running with the framing member, then you start that measurement. I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah, so let's say you have a receptacle outlet, and your hole is 6 inches above it, going, you're going parallel with it, then you're turning left. That hole, even though that hole is within 6 inches of that box, you still have to
have a strap. Still have to have a staple.
Still have to have a strap. Yep.
Still have to have a staple.
Now
Again, remember the hole only counts for horizontal securing and supporting. Okay. Once you turn and go vertical, you're going to have it. And I think we covered that in like video number 2 or 3 or 4 when he was doing that. We explained it. Hey, go back and watch the first couple.
I don't have a box for this light either, so I'm just gonna.
Ooh. All right, so that's a good picture to freeze it. Just give me a little bit more. Just give me a little bit more because I want to. I'm just playing. Yeah. So if you had a bunch of cables running through a bored hole over here, and this yanking technique probably would rip the sheathing. I'm just saying. I should take this picture and go in my power director, and I should overdub Jay's face on this. And then I'll share this on social media and say, look at the basement king.
That's right. And look at those muscles that he had. He definitely has bigger guns than I do. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, cooler tattoos as well.
Sure, leave it hanging right here because it's gonna go right in this area.
He does have some cool tats.
He does.
Hey, girl. What are you doing?
Okay, as you can see on these plans, I have 2 coach lights on the porch, and they're going on with the front porch. So, as I've said before, when I'm coming into front...
Probably not how I would do it. I would put those lights that are over there, over at the driveway, separate than the one that's over the entry. But that would require another switch. And if you remember, he had very limited space in that front box. Although you could do tandems, but some people will go poo-poo on that. They think that doesn't look, for them, they don't like the look of that, but you got limited space. Could go with stackers, but then that might, putting a box above a box, but then to some people that would look wonky to some people, that type of thing, that type of scenario. Would you put both the entry and those garage lights? Would you put all those on the same switch on the one? Seems like a lot to be on at one time.
If that's what the drawings call for and that's what I have in my bid, then that's what I'm doing.
So I thought you'd say.
Door, I want my first switch to be the foyer. But when I'm leaving out the door, I want my first switch to be this porch. So it's just switch sequence again.
All right, back to the little ladder. Ooh, on the top. It's all right. Nobody watches. Thank you, Todd. Much appreciated.
And I have to get a staple up here too.
Oh, I should mention. I don't know if the other CMECPs are in here, but we have 3 CMECPs in here right now. So Todd has entered into the house. So we have 3. That's what it takes to continue your education and still be devoted. And Todd also went through the program, so he is very aware of what it takes to get a CMECP. I would think that Jason, Joe, or Todd would always be somebody you can ask if you're interested in being a CMECP. Unfiltered from me, take me out of the equation, ask them what it was like to go through the program. Now, Todd's also not using CMECP after his name. Shame on you, Todd, but hey, we get it. Thank you for coming, and thank you for the donation.
Yeah, thanks, Todd.
Alright, and without marking this, I already know what it is. Because it's in the right spot.
I also should mention that Joe and Todd both grilled Jason in the hot seat for his 5-on-1 interview, the final stage of CMECP. No other program like it out there in the world. Okay. You really want to think you're something. Go through the CMECP program, Grunberg. I'm just saying. All right.
Mine's coming.
There you go. I know. All right, what do you think he's going to do there? You the Pancake? Yep. Pancake.
What he's going to do there.
Be careful, Pancake. Be careful, Pancake. Hold on. Let's do that. Pancake. Careful, Pancake. So what's the typical depth, the cubic inch of a pancake? What is it? I can't remember. Is it 5 cubic inches? Something like that? 5 or 6 cubic inches?
Oh,
something
on
like
the
that?
inside, yeah, it's about 5. Pretty much you can get 1 cable in it.
Okay, so he's got 2 there. So even if he's running that through, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the equipment grounds. Okay, so he's got five cables running in there. So again, just the point is and I assume he's running a pancake box. Maybe he's going to cut one in, but I probably would have done it ahead of time. Otherwise, you could potentially damage those cables. So that's just a example of thinking ahead of time. I mean, depending on your pancake box, that might be a problem. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I've had issues in basements where we had pancakes for sconces that we put up, and we brought in a switch leg in and a switch leg out to jumper the 3. And the end of circuit one, well, we call it the EOC. It's actually just the end of the switch leg. That one was fine because it only had 1 cable, but the other 2 had 2 cables. So we exceeded the pancake volume. And then my guy goes, well, the pendant has an extended piece that sticks out, so that should be allowable, right? And the inspector goes, yeah, no, I've never seen a cubic inch on those.
Yeah, a dome with no markings on it. Right, there you go.
Right.
Oh,
and
hey,
we don't know what's there because
Clarence,
it's not there. So
Clarence says OSHA is watching. Well, chances are, Clarence, that OSHA doesn't deal with residential, so probably not going to be on this job, but OSHA is always watching. There you go. Thank you, Clarence. Schwartzy's in the house.
Thanks,
Came in late, but he's in the house. You're right. See that step down? Absolutely. Good call, Basement King.
And
All right.
I know this panel's in a weird spot. It's what the customer wanted, so don't blame me for that.
You know what's weird about that spot? So this is a different, so he's used a couple different houses. The weird spot about that isn't the other side of that wall the entryway, right?
Yep.
So he's not going to put a meter in there. So that means this is a remote distribution panel. So that means he's got of course, folks, if he was in the 2020 NEC, which we haven't established, then he would need an emergency disconnect outside in 230.85. So again, at that point, maybe he has a disconnect outside. It's that's out there, and then he's going to change over and he's going to run feeder into here, because I would not think he'd have a meter right there by the entry door. I don't think so. Right. So
I don't think so.
this tells me this is probably a feeder, and I don't think that he's run it yet on this house, because I didn't see anything in there maybe. So, yeah, nothing wrong with the location,
Yeah, and I remember when doing track homes and also the high rises, is we would have a one line crew, and the one line crew would run, they would set the meter if that was their job, and then from the meter they would set the gear, and pretty much they would do all the service conductors coming in and then all the feeders going out, to where when we came to rough in the houses or the units, the panel would already be there, the feeder would already be there, or they would come back behind us and install it later, right? And all we had to do is just the branch circuits going out. So I don't know if that's his case here, if they have a certain style with his company, that maybe someone came in before him and set the gear, and they're going to come back in and run the feeder to that subby bro. But that's how we did it, and it worked decent. Again, the communication level is a little off, because you don't always see the guys that set the panels, and maybe you have input to talk to them, and again, they're part of that one line crew, and you're part of the roughing crew, and because your guys' leaders don't like each other, you can't talk to, you know what I mean, like that whole commercial thing. It was more when I was in commercial that this happened. So, but it is a good way to do it if you have it set up to where you can split your guys into crews. You save time, and their main focus is that. So
you lost me, Lo. I don't know. I don't know what 6.0 is. And now you're just confusing me. Okay. So, So I also wanted to say something, Jay. As many trademarks as I have not submitted subby, bruh. So I don't think it is a trademark. You need to get on that. You need to trademark. I should have said that live now. Somebody. Okay. So
someone's gonna steal our stuff.
Just so you know, it was used on this day live. So now it's in public domain. So now that is owned by Grundberg, the subby, bruh, with the trademark TM. And if it gets a registered trademark over time, he's put it into commerce now. It's subby, bruh. Just saying. All right. Trying to protect you, Grundberg. Trying to protect your intellectual properties. You know what I'm saying? So
appreciate it.
I'm just saying. All right.
You okay?
Use a bigger ladder there. It's okay. Higher ceiling. All right. We say this as we do in Always, Jay, and I think your position is the same as mine. I don't leave it poked out. I would cut in a box, although, it could move, and he might be worried about where it is. Maybe it's going to have rock, or it's going to be brick. If it was brick or rock, then I would put a box on it and hang it out there and curl the cable up into the end of the box and let the box hang, so I don't have to worry about water getting into the cable, because some people will frown on that. So, but if all opportunity, I get an opportunity, I'm cutting in a box. That's me. You do you. Everybody do their own. With the roto zips now, it's not a big deal. But for me, when I have an opportunity to cut my boxes in as an electrician, I want to actually set it in stone, so to speak. So I used to cut all my boxes in, but to each his own. When it was going to be bricked or stoned, I would just poke it out and then I would hang a box on it, and usually they would set it in there. What's your thoughts again on this? I know we've covered it.
Yeah, I don't know if a couple minutes ago he was running a switch leg up to a ceiling fixed luminaire, that the box wasn't there because he didn't have it on site. So I don't know if he's missing these actual boxes. I don't know what his reason is for this one here, though. He could easily just pull that cable back out and cut it. Whereas in the one in the walk-in area where he was up there pulling the cable and struggling with it, you're not going to be able to pull those out as easy. So in that situation, I'd set a box. But there's nothing wrong, like you said, with even setting a pancake on the outside and them framing around it, and then if you have to remove that pancake and put another box in, you can do that as well. The last thing you want them to do is just cover that up, though. You don't want them to cover it up with the stone or the brick or anything, because that would suck.
It seemed like as many as as I did, and people will say that Paul probably never wired any, but it wouldn't take you much to Google it.
I've never seen it.
Okay, whatever. So at the end of the day, I'm just a paper electrician, by the way. But at the end of the day, every one that I ever did like that, I cut a box in. So, and I never had any problems. I never had anybody come back, because you know what? If both of mine are cut in at the same height, that's on mine. At least I know I'm consistent. All they've got to do is work around it. But if I did know it was going to be bricked or rocked again, it could fall in the middle of a joint or something. So that's when I would stick it out and put a box on it, that type of thing. And they always were great about doing it, right? And I would always put the metal box on it for me, and a connector in the back of it, because it would have those little wings on it. And that way when it just seems, now I know my brother used to just get the plastic nail-ons up, and they would put them and set them in there as well. So to each his own. People say, does anybody use metal boxes anymore? Yeah. So I know this. I had people say that to me, email me and says, dude, what decade are you from? We don't use metal boxes anymore. Well, I don't know. You better talk to Rayco, because Rayco makes a lot of them and they still sell. So yeah.
That's right.
Hey, they're all commercial though. Maybe they're no residential anymore. I don't know. I don't buy it. But anyway.
Maybe we could ask Izzy if he's back in here.
That's right. Yeah, because he's a commercial expert. And I am sure he's going to see all that was loose up there. I am sure that he gets up there, and I am sure that he secures it every 4.5 feet. I'm sure.
Okay, I'm going to do my best to explain three-ways right now.
All right, here we go.
That's the only thing I have left to do in this circuit.
Teach me.
It was the hardest thing for me to learn whenever I first started electrical. But I'm never going to teach people how to do dead ends. Well, maybe, but they're really not necessary. So the way I do it is,
hold on.
Three-way is always.
So let me explain. When he says dead ends, where you get to the end and you have a three-way, it's in the box, and apprentice looks at it and goes, what the crap do I do with this? All I've got is a black, red, and a white in here. And you got to remember what he's doing. In those scenarios, he's sending over the power and then bringing it back on a traveler. Because the three ways, you have a common terminal and you have the switching terminals. So all he's doing is a dead end like that is you might be in a situation where you've got a switch at the end of a hall that don't need to go up to the luminaire, because the first switch you went up to the luminaire, but it's also where the power might come in. So all you're doing is taking that 14.3 or whatnot to the end, and you're dead ending it. And all you're really doing on that is, in our cases, usually with the white conductor, which you're allowed to do, as long as you're not going back to the luminaire, you can re-identify it. Code allows for this. And what he's doing is he's sending the power all the way to the dead end to go to the common terminal, so that he can come back on the black and the red, right? Yeah. So that's what he means by dead end. And it does have its place, right? If I've got a long run and no other power or no other circuit, and I know what I'm powering it from, then why would I not want to send a 14.3 down? And that's all I have to do the traveler aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it does have its place.
As long as you're meeting all the code rules on it, it actually comes in handy a lot more often than what you think. I mean, if you're in a situation where it's a tight fit to get even a 14.3 in there, let alone a 14.3 and a 14.2 and whatever else you're trying to feed off of it. Maybe you just want to run a California three-way, what some people call California, Colorado dead-end three-way. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but yeah, I've done it, and I'll continue to do it. And people say, oh, you're a hack. You don't bring you need a neutral at every box, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah. Whatever, brah.
I know. There are allowances where you don't, and so that's the case.
It's just I know the allowances,
switched on the
right,
other.
And they may not.
Now
so.
a three-way switch has 4 screws on it. It has the ground screw, 2 traveler screws, and a black screw, which is the common. So, which means that when you go to hook up that switch, one side on the common is going to be the hot, and then on the other side of the three-way, the common is going to be the switch leg. So all that does is it alternates back and forth the power or the switch leg to either connect the circuit or disconnect the circuit.
That is a good point. The black on a three-way will always either be the power in, and on the other end, it will be the leg out to the luminaire. Except for when you have a four-way circuit, which uses 2 3-ways and then has a 4-way in the middle, which all it's doing is bringing it in and bringing it out, just passing through. You have a line in, line out. That's it. Not as complicated if you kind of in your mind follow the flow of how the current, if you will, is going to go, then it's not so bad.
So like I said, we're gonna power on one side, we're gonna switch on the other. It gets a little crazy when you're going from one box that's one circuit to another box that's another circuit. That's when you have to start watching your neutrals and what you're doing. So if you're gonna power it on the one circuit, you wanna make sure you break the neutrals on the other one. It's real easy to do, might sound more complicated.
There's nothing, there you go. There's nothing worse. There you go. There's your common. Jay has it in a picture,
so,
common. There's nothing worse, though, to have power at 2 boxes and accidentally get your neutrals mixed up and then wonder why your AFCIs are tripping out and you're sitting there having to troubleshoot it. There's nothing worse than that. And then you think there's something wrong with the AFCI, and it's like, dude, this is what's going on, that type of thing. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, it's actually working properly. No, you make a good point. The AFCI is actually working properly, and they get a bad name sometimes, a bad rap because of that. But what he's talking about on the 4 terminals, just in case you guys don't know, here's the ground.
Yep.
And you'll notice on this side there's a gold and a gold here, and those are your travelers. And then the black one that stands out alone, because it's for your switch leg or your hot, and that's what he's explaining right here. So some of them are different. Sometimes you'll have the 2 travelers on one side and the common on the other. They're all different. You have to make sure that you're looking at your device, because sometimes out in the field people will say, oh, you have to put the 2 on the left side, you have to make those your travelers. And it's like, no, that's not how this one in my hand is set up. It's actually, you would put the black on one side and the red on the other side, and then your common down here, whether that's your hot or your switch leg. So again, make sure you're looking at your device. They're all designed different. And another point too is when you're installing it, if you actually see right there, there is a top. There's a top, and what that means is you want that top to be the top of the device when it goes in. You don't want it to be down where the top's at the actually at the bottom. So again, there's just some things that you want to make sure that you're looking at when you're installing these.
So to answer Adam's question, he's talking about 404.2C, and there's some allowances in there that you have to follow that would allow you to not have the grounded conductor at every box location. If, for example, if I have a hallway there and I have a light in the middle, and I'm controlling it from those, and they're within sight, each other, I can see them, then I don't have to have it at both. Okay. So there's some allowances. So it's not carte blanche always. You get allowances for not having to have it at every box. In this case, it could be argued that since there's an attic here, everywhere that he goes, there's a potential to get down that wall in order to add the neutral if necessary. So if you read it, okay, you see some allowances in here that talk about when you can get to it and when you can't get to it. Okay, so there's allowances in there to be it. So that's why, that's why it's tough being an electrician, because you do have to do just like Adam said. You have to open up and dig into this and understand it. Okay, because it's in the rules, and that's why it's so critical to understand that. So again, we're not going to go that deep into it, but here's what I'm going to tell you guys that are posting that about the neutrals. I need you to go read 404.2C as in cat. Okay. C as in cat for the 2020 edition of the National Electrical Code. And I don't know that it's changed I think it's still the same in the 2017, still C, but go read it. Okay. So there is allowances here. And in his case, it's an accessible attic, or in his case, in that hallway or that foyer area, he is controlling that lighting from 2 locations that are in the same area and within sight. So there is allowances that he can get away with it. Okay, that type of thing. So great points, but that is why you have to, that's why we tell people, electricians, just because we run the cables, just because we learn the skills, you got to work the brain. And that's what I love about everybody that comes to these episodes and that are on our programs, is that they are wanting to exercise that brain, right? And that's why we have the code. And that's why we have the allowances here. So again, get into it, read it, and you're gonna learn a little bit about it. So good episodes in the code. All right, good points. Somebody else said, I think Todd hooked him up. If you're talking about our program for the Fast Tracks program, you use your code book. In fact, I encourage you to watch the video, because you got chevrons. They're going to lead you to the code. You don't just take our Fast Tracks course and stay in the course. You have to go in and out of the code book, right? And that's what that program's all about. So watch the video. So go to Electrical Code, or go to fasttrackssystem.com. In fact, I'll put it down here if you're interested. Didn't want to get it, didn't want to get much into sales today, but there you go. Go to Fast Track System, and you can watch the video and you can learn more about what it is. But yes, you have to have a current code book, work in our program. And when it tells you to go to the code book, you go to the code book, you use our illustrations. And most importantly, you come to Wednesday nights where you can ask any questions you want, that type of thing. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Yeah. O's probably talking about things like occupancy sensors and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's go back.
And what it is, but in this case, both these boxes where this 3-way is going to be have the same power source. It has the same circuit, so all the neutrals are going to go together. I'm going to have to make another video to explain these 3-ways a little better, but that's pretty much how it is. Powered on one side, switched on the other. I'm going to choose this side for it to be switched because of that platform. I just want the easiest route for me to run wire. So I'm going to pull a wire, my switch legs first. I'm going to pull from this box, and then I'm going to pull a 3-wire, so it's going to get powered down there. It's going to get switched down here and powered down here.
And like Jay showed in his switch, always remember the 3-way, the black terminal, it's either going to have the power that supplies it, and on the other end, it's going to have the loop up to the light. Everything else is travelers, back and forth. And if you have a 4-way switch, all it does is break those travelers, and you have a line side and a load side on the 4-way switch, and all it's doing is switching the direction on and off and changing the path of your current flow. That's all it's doing. Okay.
Yeah, but also, again, like I said, make sure you're reading the instructions, especially on those 4-ways, because they'll have the 2 terminals on each side, and whether or not you take one set of travelers to the left and one to the right, or one set to the top, one set to the bottom, that all just depends on that style of the switch. Yeah. So make sure you're reading how to hook them up properly, because it is as simple as just cutting that 14.3 in half and putting a box and a device there, but make sure you're hooking it up right.
Absolutely. Make sure you read the instructions that are part of the listing of that product.
That's right.
Thank you, Jason. Posting a code reference for him. I was talking about it, but I should have posted it.
And if it makes you feel better, mark your wire.
This is an iPhone 11 Pro from Back Market.
I like it. If it makes you feel better, mark your wire.
Gonna mark this boy.
Of course, we all know he's talking cable. But...
And I don't have a box for this, but
that might, you know what, Jay?
So I'm just gonna leave.
That might be why he didn't cut the other boxes. He doesn't have any boxes at the time, and we've all been there, right? We got to make that run to the supply house. Don't have any with us, that type of thing.
Yeah, well, it sounds like all his boxes are part of a package, So I imagine he probably, when he gets on site, that package is already there, and they may be missing some boxes out of it, because just like he said with the trim, that Pass and Seymour plate. Normally, in my instance, I would go buy those plates from the supply house and have them delivered, and my guys would install them. But in his instance, it sounds like that builder is actually providing those for him, and maybe they're just a little bit behind on their order.
Yep.
Some wire here. So there's 2 lights on this long foyer hall that go together. I'm gonna pull it from this way because it's easier.
Careful.
And there's gonna be a whole episode on nothing but lights. So if that looks a little confusing to you, we'll make sure that we get it fixed in a later episode.
See, that's what I do all the time.
She's an electrician.
It's kind of funny because I just want to keep it off of this return. We don't want any wires on that.
Oh, ew, hold on. You notice something, Jay? It looks, there you go. It looks like the low voltage guys doing, it was probably HVAC thermostat guy. He did fill all of his holes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like he used, that's the Great Stuff Pro Orange, which is what I used to use. And so again, that comes up. He's going to, you have 300.21, maintaining the rating of the assembly to stop the potential for products of combustion. And if you have a hole in a cavity and the fire starts and it's in a top plate, or if you have a basement, it's at a bottom plate that goes down to a basement. If a fire starts in there, say a box or something happens in there and it gets started, that oxygen that can come through that little hole creates like a blowtorch and it can cause it to rapidly expand, right? So you want to slow it down as much as you can. So you fill all those holes, whether it's rock wool, insulation, Great Stuff Pro, the orange, whatever it is, whatever maintains the rating of that assembly. Again, whatever is your local jurisdiction's okay with. A lot of guys just jam it with the pink stuff, the insulating foam, and maybe the insulator's going to do it. But I noticed that the HVAC guys or the thermostat, they were taking things into their own hands. They're like, no, we're sealing our holes. And they did that. So I know you said you don't do it. You let them do that on their own at the end, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's just we're just not in a system where it's required to do it. If we go in and drill holes after they've already foam sprayed it, then we'll go in and spray our own holes. But for the most part, the contractors we work, they either do it themselves as on the PM level, or they hire a crew to do it behind us. So,
yep.
Okay, that's all the 14.2 on this circuit. Now we got to pull the 14.3 for this 3-way.
These nifty little lazy Susans there.
yeah, those are nice.
Okay, there's 2 holes there. I was going to say, because the 5 cables ultimately coming down there, I was going to say, okay, are we going to have to go into a little lesson of an adjustments and what you'd have to do to NMB since you have more than 9 current carrying conductors? Was I going to have to go into that explanation? Especially for Izzy, because obviously Izzy probably wouldn't know. But we're not going to, because it looks like it's 2 separate holes, 5, 3 in one, 2 in the other. He's good. We don't have to worry about that.
We don't have to go into 310.15C1 right now. Okay, Izzy. We'll save that for later.
We'll save that for later.
In session.
Hey, he doesn't even know that code exists, Jay. Don't blow his mind. I'm just
sorry.
3-ways on a multi-gang box. I always put the 3-way line in with the switch leg if it's on this side. So here's my switch leg that it's going with. I'm putting them in the same slot. And this is how I get away without marking the wires. But just for the sake of this video, I'm going to.
That reminds me, that's like saying No, it's like saying you've got to secure an EMT within 3 feet, but I would never do it in the real world. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar? Oh, wait a minute. That must be a different episode. Don't do as I say, do as I do, dang it. All right. Anyway, he's marking them. That's what he's doing.
Foyer 3. Now I gotta staple it down to the.
He's got Sharpies. You love Sharpies, Jay. So.
Okay, so there we have it. This is our other end of our 3-way. So in this box we have our kitchen lights, our pendant lights, and these are single poled, and then we have a 3-way here for the foyer. Now this side right here is going to get powered, and then on this side it's going to get a switch leg. So this is going to be the common on this side. And if you wanted to, let's say that this was on a different circuit and it was getting powered over there, all you have to do, the only thing difference is these neutrals go together. They won't go with the rest of them. But we'll get into that when we start cutting in.
Okay, so let's kind of come back to us, Jay, as that's the end of that episode. So here's the thing. Our electrician stopped doing this, and so just to give you guys a kind of what's going on here. He doesn't go. There is no episode 10 here, and he didn't produce a final or a trim out of this. So we will hunt for some videos to do commentary for trim outs, making up junctions and things like that, so we can comment on them and give little tips, because there are little tips there to be had. And we'll look at other videos, but so this really brings us to the conclusion of this residential commentary, because we're going to have more coming up in different ones. But overall thoughts now, Jay. We've been through 9 episodes, and I don't think there's a 10. If it will, everybody out there will be first to know. Overall opinion, trying to remember back from the beginning. Any overall thoughts on this guy? I mean, he seems to really tone it down in the last couple of videos. He doesn't nearly, go, cursey as much. But what are your thoughts here at the end here?
I thought he did great. I thought he explained everything that, if his goal was to teach certain areas and like have a beginner watch his videos, I think on a beginning level, you would be able to learn a lot from this guy, and you would be able to take, roughly about 80% of what he says and use it out in the field to your advantage. Obviously you and I, we're a little seasoned, so we kind of are a little more, I don't know the word. We're a little different than the beginners. Let's just say there's not much that he really, that I didn't know that he was teaching. But again, his teaching is for the beginning levels, and he did a great job at that. So good job, Brandon.
Yeah, if that's his name. Is that his name? Let's go, Brandon. So yeah, my takeaway from it is that he gave a lot of good insight for the person that's learning. A lot of tips in cable management when it comes to coming into boxes, things to think about. He did, through the series, he did make some comments that weren't necessarily against code, but basically were less than code, in other words, which means, well, I shouldn't say less than code. When he said secure every 4 feet rather than 4.5 feet, it's okay to secure every 4 feet if you want. That's fine. Okay. Obviously, with the video, everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback. And so, in fairness, I am sure, as a disclaimer for Brandon, if that's his name, he probably did go through and secure all of his cables within 4.5 feet, or in case 4 feet. He probably went all the trusses. I'm sure he got up there, didn't need to waste camera time with that or drag his girlfriend or whatever around the job site. So I am sure that he put all those staples in where he needed to go, didn't leave them loose. So I encourage anybody out there to go back and watch all of these 9 series. Okay. And again, we're going to be coming out with more and other different topics, grounding and bonding, other things. There's tons of commenting out there that can be made. Again, we're not doing this to berate or belittle or anybody. He did a great job. We're just using this because when you see a video like that on YouTube and you watch it, you don't get the benefit of having another set of eyes. So that's why we do it. And so if anything, we promote his video. We say, good job. We think he's doing, but there will be some out there that we will strongly disagree with. And it is what it is. Other than that, I thought it was a good series, and it's the end of that series, and we'll move on to something else. And I'm excited about what we're going to do. I like this stuff that we do here, where we can just do this commentary and give insight and maybe teach somebody something. That's the whole goal.
Yeah, I think out of all 9 videos, 1 or 2 listeners definitely learned something from the code part of it, and between your knowledge and my knowledge. So yeah, heck yeah. Not only are you learning from the videos what to do and what not to do, you're also able to learn from us as well as we commentate it. So again, it's not to belittle anybody. It's not to put him down. Brandon did a great job. Heck, his girlfriend did a great job on the video. It sucks that his camera was overheating. That definitely probably slowed him down. He said he had to keep putting it in the freezer. So that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day,
some of those phones will overheat. My phone, when I'm doing some videos along or something, it will overheat. So it gets right hot. So I'm sure that was done with the phone, that type of thing, with the phones being what they are today. But the sheer fact that his I think you can attest to this. Back in the day when I was doing the contracting, and my wife was actually out there helping me when I was working during the day, and then my guys would finish, and I had a job that needed to be done. I was working at night, and she was always there, right? So
oh yeah.
So I mean, and I think Jalissa's the same way. Y'all, when you're doing it, they put it in. So again, kudos to his girlfriend or wife. If he happens to ever see these commentaries, I don't want him to ever feel like we're being overly harsh on him, because we're not. He did. Now, there's some people we will be, right? But in this case, Brandon did a good job, and there's tweaking areas that everybody can tweak. But at the end of the day, he nailed it. He did a good job. So,
good job, buddy.
With that said, Jay, I think we're at the end of episode 9, and I think we're not going to get into that today, Joel. Maybe another episode where we'll do a video on all different types of 3-ways and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we can't give everybody everything. So sorry about that. So hopefully you got something out of it, folks. And until next time, when me and the Grunberg will do another commentary on some other type of install, we will bring it to you. Until next time, folks, stay safe. God bless.
See you.
You've been listening to Electrify with your hosts, Paul Abernathy and Jay, the Basement King Grunberg.